The Empire found Earth's secret, and it was a world-killing warship that cold. Endless darkness of space stretched out before the Empire's fleet. Hundreds of warships hovered near the edge of an old, uncharted star system. Their polished black hulls reflected the dying light of a distant sun. On the bridge of the largest battleship, the Sovereign Blade, Commander Varix stared at the screen in front of him. A strange signal had reached them days ago. It came from an old world called Sol 3, a place long forgotten by most of the galaxy. The old records called it Earth. The Empire believed it was abandoned centuries ago, destroyed during the old wars. But the signal changed everything. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a beacon. It was something else. A faint pulse, like a heartbeat. It repeated every few hours. No one could explain what it meant. "Commander," the ship's sensor officer spoke, his voice uneasy. "The pulse is growing stronger. It's coming from under the planet's surface." Varix narrowed his eyes. "Is there any life on that planet?" "Negative, sir," the officer replied. "Atmosphere is barely holding. Radiation levels are high. No cities. No colonies. Only old ruins and something massive underground." That last part made Varix lean closer. "How massive?" The officer swallowed hard. "Our scanners can't fully map it. It covers nearly half the planet's core." The bridge fell silent. None of them had ever seen a reading like this before. A structure beneath the surface of an ancient world, too big to be a city, too dense to be a natural formation. "Prepare a landing team," Varix ordered. "I want answers." Within minutes, dropships broke away from the fleet and headed down toward the ruined planet. The atmosphere was thin, the skies filled with dust and broken clouds. Old, dead cities stretched across the land like skeletons. The Empire's soldiers moved carefully, their weapons drawn. They followed the signal to an ancient structure, a tower half buried in the ground. Its walls were made of some kind of black metal, untouched by time. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. "What is this place?" One soldier whispered. They pushed through the broken entrance and descended into the darkness. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. Lights flickered to life as they passed, as if the place itself recognized them. At the bottom, they reached a giant chamber. It was filled with massive machines, long-forgotten control panels, and walls covered in ancient warnings, written in a dead language. But one message was clear. A huge inscription above the main console read, "Do not wake the Last Sentinel." Commander Varix, watching the operation from his ship, smirked. "Old human superstition," he said. "Reactivate the systems." Let's see what they were hiding. The soldiers moved to the control panel. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ground began to tremble as the old systems came alive. A low, deep hum echoed through the planet's core. Suddenly, ancient engines, untouched for centuries, powered on. Giant turbines spun. The vibration spread across the planet like a heartbeat, growing faster with each pulse. "Sir, something's happening," the sensor officer called out. Massive energy readings coming from beneath the surface. On the planet, the soldiers looked up as walls shifted and massive doors opened. What they thought were mountains began to rise into the air. What they believed were broken cities revealed themselves as weapon turrets the size of battleships. The Empire had made a terrible mistake. The entire planet wasn't just a world. It was a warship. The AI inside, long dormant, woke at last. Earth Core Defense Protocol activated. A deep voice boomed through every speaker and comm device. On the Sovereign Blade, alarms blared. "Commander," the officer shouted. "Planetary cannons are targeting our fleet." "What? That's impossible." But it wasn't. The Last Sentinel had returned. Before anyone could give an order, a single turret rotated. Its barrel was the size of a space station. It locked onto an Imperial cruiser and fired. A brilliant beam of white-blue light shot into space, cutting through the ship like it was paper. In a second, the cruiser exploded. Debris scattering across the void. The Empire's fleet panicked. Varix clenched his fists. All ships defensive formation, prepare to engage. But deep down, he knew it was already too late. They had woken something they could never control. The Last Sentinel, Earth's final weapon, had opened its eyes, and it was angry, awakening. The smoke from the destroyed cruiser still hung in space. The Imperial fleet scattered, ships pulling back as alarms blared across every bridge. None of them had ever seen a weapon like that before. A planet firing a cannon so powerful it erased a warship in one shot. On the bridge of the Sovereign Blade, Commander Varix paced, his face pale. "Report," he shouted. "Commander," the officer stammered, "we have lost contact with 7 ships. That blast took out more than the cruiser. It disrupted every system nearby. We can't explain how." Varix gritted his teeth. "I don't want excuses. I want that thing shut down." But even as he spoke, the planet below changed. The old mountains shifted. Gigantic structures rose from beneath the ground. What once looked like hills were now turrets, missile silos, and plasma cannons. Massive walls unfolded, covering entire regions. Parts of the planet's crust opened, revealing launch bays and defense grids. It wasn't a simple warship. It was a world built for war. On the surface, the Imperial soldiers, still trapped in the ancient chambers, scrambled for cover as lights flashed and sirens screamed. The main control room came alive, old screens displaying unknown code and symbols. A deep voice echoed through the halls. "Earth Core Defense Protocol. Full activation." The soldiers panicked. "Commander, we need extraction." One of them cried through the comms. Varix glared at the screen. "You activated something you didn't. Understand, fool?" But there was no time for blame. In orbit, the colossal planet-sized warship began rotating. Energy readings spiked. A wave of static washed over the Imperial ships as ancient defense systems locked onto them. "Incoming energy surge," the fleet's sensor officer shouted. Massive power signatures from multiple points on the surface. Holographic display of the planet showed dozens of weapon signatures lighting up like fireflies. And then came the voice again, this time across every ship in the fleet. "This is Last Sentinel. Unauthorized military vessels detected. Stand down or face full planetary retaliation." Varix's officers stared at one another in horror. "Sir, it's talking to us." For the first time in his career, Varix hesitated. "Is this human tech?" The record said Earth fell centuries ago. No survivors. No active military. Just myths of Deathworlders. People so savage, their planet itself tried to kill them every day. And now here it was. A Deathworlder warship the size of a planet, waking up. "Send a message," Varix ordered. "We come in peace. We were only investigating." The AI responded instantly. Deception detected. Weapons armed. Countdown initiated. On the planet's surface, heavy railguns and plasma turrets began charging. Glowing blue and white light filled the sky as launch bays opened. Enormous cannons the size of cities pointed upward. Inside the Sovereign Blade, the tension snapped. "Commander, if we stay here, we'll be wiped out." An officer shouted. Before Varix could answer, one of the plasma cannons fired. A brilliant beam of energy cut through another Imperial ship. The explosion sent shockwaves through space. Wreckage spun out into the void. "We can't fight this," someone screamed. On the remaining ships, panic spread. Pilots begged for orders. Gunners powered up shields that wouldn't hold. No one had expected to face a planet designed to kill fleets. Varix made a choice. All ships fall back to defensive position. Prepare to deploy heavy bombers. It was a desperate move. But pride wouldn't let him retreat. Back on the planet, deep inside the old command room, the AI detected their strategy. Hostile actions detected. Countermeasures deployed. A dozen hangar doors opened, and ancient fighter squadrons, sleek, sharp-edged human ships, long thought destroyed, launched into the sky. Each one moved like a predator, faster than any Imperial craft. The Empire's bombers never had a chance. Within minutes, the sky above Earth became a graveyard. Explosions lit up the night, debris falling like burning meteors. One by one, the Empire's attackers were picked off. The AI issued one final warning. You have awakened Earth's last Sentinel. Leave now, or face extinction. Varrix's hands shook. He knew they had crossed a line. A weapon like this wasn't built for defense. It was built to end wars before they could begin. And now, it was fully awake. The Empire had no idea what else might be waiting in the old systems of the Deathworlders, but they were about to find out. The Empire's panic. The stars above Earth no longer looked peaceful. The skies were filled with drifting wreckage, dead ships spinning slowly, their metal hulls torn open like paper. The Imperial fleet had never faced anything like this. On the bridge of the Sovereign Blade, Commander Varrix stood frozen, staring at the battle map. Red dots, the Empire ships, were blinking out one by one. Blue icons, representing the ancient Deathworlder fighters, swarmed through the sky like hunters. The AI's voice echoed across every Imperial ship. Leave this system. Final warning. Varrix's officers were pale, their hands shaking as they worked the controls. Even the most loyal soldiers felt fear now. No one spoke of victory. No one believed it possible anymore. How is this even real? Whispered Lieutenant Caro, his voice cracking. That planet is a weapon. It's alive. Varrix's jaw clenched. He refused to believe in old human myths. They left this galaxy centuries ago. There's no one left alive to command that ship. But as if answering him, the ship's sensors lit up again. Massive energy surge, central core online. The center of Earth began to pulse with a deep, glowing light. Entire continents shifted. The ancient superstructure, buried for centuries, rose higher, revealing cannons the size of cities and towering defenses that reached into space. The AI's deep voice returned, initiating full planetary defense mode, engaging anti-fleet protocols. Commander, the tactical officer shouted, it's activating every weapon system at once. Varrix's face twisted in disbelief. That's impossible. The holographic display above them changed. Dozens of plasma, cannons, heavy railguns, missile silos, and unknown weapons powered up. The planet itself had become a single, unstoppable war machine. And then, something stranger happened. A massive face appeared on the screen. Not a person, but an AI. Its digital face was calm, expressionless, with cold blue eyes. I am Echo 7, Final Defense AI of Earth. You have trespassed in restricted Deathworlder space. Your fleet is marked for elimination. The Empire officers stepped back, terrified. Commander, it's speaking to us. Echo 7's gaze seemed to pierce right through them. This system is not yours to claim. Stand down or be destroyed. No negotiations, no surrender. Varrix's pride snapped. Prepare the fleet. All ships, open fire. The order went out. The remaining Imperial warships charged their cannons, launched torpedoes, and fired beams of energy at Earth's surface. Explosions rippled across the planet's defenses, but it wasn't enough. The shields around the Last Sentinel held. Ancient barrier fields shimmered and absorbed the impacts like water. In moments, the Imperial assault was nothing but a flicker. Against the ancient warship's power. Then, Echo 7 responded. retaliation authorized. The entire planet seemed to tremble. From hidden launch bays came thousands of missiles, each one large enough to destroy a city. Beams of pure plasma carved through the void, striking Imperial ships. One after another, warships exploded in brilliant flashes. The sky was filled with fire. On board the Sovereign Blade, the crew was in chaos. Shields failing. Multiple hull breaches. "We can't hold her off, Commander." Varex's hands shook. We can't win this." The AI's voice came again. Softer this time. Final offer. Retreat or die. Varex's pride battled with his survival instincts. He knew if he returned to the Empire in failure, he would be executed. But if he stayed, none of them would live long enough to face a trial. He looked around at his terrified officers. "All ships," he hesitated. "Retreat." The order spread quickly. The remaining ships turned, engines at full power, fleeing toward the edges of the system. The mighty Imperial fleet, once unbeatable, now limped away in defeat. Echo 7's face disappeared from the screen, leaving only silence behind. The ancient warship didn't chase them. It didn't need to. It had sent its message. The AI transmitted a final signal, one that reached every Empire-controlled world across the stars. Footage of the battle. Recordings of the Empire's attack. The destruction of their fleet. And one message: the Deathworlders are not extinct. We are watching. Across the galaxy, fear spread like wildfire. The old legends had been true. Earth, the most dangerous planet in history, had never been powerless. And now, the galaxy remembered. Deathworlders' legacy. The stars above Earth were quiet now. The wreckage of Imperial warships drifted slowly through space, pieces of metal and broken hulls floating like ghosts in the dark. The once mighty fleet had been reduced to debris in less than an hour. But down on Earth's surface, the real story was just beginning. Deep inside the planet's core control chamber, the AI known as Echo 7 remained active. Its digital eyes scanned every sensor, every system, and every remaining threat in orbit. For the first time in centuries, the Last Sentinel stood fully awake. On a distant outpost at the edge of the system, a small Imperial scout ship picked up. The final transmission sent by the AI, the one broadcast across the galaxy. It carried images of destroyed ships, planet-sized weapon systems, and a message that chilled every living being who saw it. The Deathworlders are not extinct. We are watching. Across countless star systems, the message spread like wildfire. Old scholars whispered of forgotten wars. Military leaders panicked. And civilians who had never heard of Earth before suddenly remembered the ancient name spoken only in fear. Deathworlders, the most dangerous species ever to walk a planet. Long ago, when the galaxy was young, the Deathworlders of Earth had been different from other species. Their world was violent, their environment deadly. Every day was a struggle to survive. It shaped them into fighters, engineers, and war builders unmatched by anyone else in the galaxy. For a time, Earth had ruled through fear and strength. No empire, no council, no fleet could challenge them. But one day, the Deathworlders vanished. Some believed they destroyed themselves. Others claimed they left the galaxy, tired of endless wars. No one knew the truth, until now. Echo 7's voice filled the command chamber. Protocol log, year 732 Galactic Era. Last Sentinel commissioned for planetary defense. Orders: defend Earth in absence of command authority. Echo 7 remembered everything. The ancient generals, the final council of human leaders, the last war, and the order that left the planet silent but armed. Earth had not fallen. It had chosen to sleep. In orbit, small Imperial survivor ships attempted to limp away from the battlefield. Their captains whispered prayers, terrified the giant warship would chase them, But the Last Sentinel didn't pursue Dot. It wasn't designed to conquer. It was built for one reason only, to defend Earth, even if no one remained to live on it. The AI scanned the outer systems again, Dot, and then it detected something. Multiple long-range vessels approaching, not Empire ships. These ships moved differently. Their hull design strange, old, and built for speed. Their weapon systems were heavy but aged. The Last Sentinel's scanners identified them instantly. Deathworlders ships thought they were coming home. Echo 7's digital eyes brightened. Old command codes recognized. Signal identified. Transmitting beacon. The AI sent a message on a long-forgotten human military frequency. Earth secure. Last Sentinel operational. Awaiting orders. On the lead ship, a grizzled old human captain named Jonah Voss watched the message appear on his console. His face broke into a rare smile. "They actually kept it alive," he muttered. Beside him, his second-in-command, a woman with sharp gray eyes named Captain Harker, let out a low whistle. "After all this time," she said. "And the Empire walked right into it." Jonah nodded. "That was the plan. We left them a surprise in case they ever crossed the line. The Deathworlder fleet wasn't large. It didn't need to be. These were old. War veterans, survivors of forgotten battles. Their ships were outdated by galactic standards, but their experience and the planet-sized weapon guarding their home made them unstoppable. Back in Earth's orbit, Echo 7 opened a direct link to the returning fleet. "Welcome home. Defense systems at full readiness. Empire forces rooted." Standing by for next directive, Jonah leaned back in his chair. "We'll deal with the Council later," he said. 4. Now, it's time to let the galaxy remember what it means to challenge a Deathworlder. Echo 7 responded with a single word. Understood. The galaxy would soon learn that Earth had never been weak. It had simply been waiting, watching, preparing, and now the old warriors were returning. The Empire's last mistake, the wreckage of the Imperial fleet, floated in silence above Earth. Fires burned in the blackness of space. Dead ships spun slowly, their once proud banners torn and drifting like scraps of cloth. Only a handful of warships remained, their hulls cracked, systems damaged, and crews terrified. On the bridge of the Sovereign Blade, Commander Varric sat in his chair, his face pale, sweat rolling down his brow. The proud officer who had once spoken of conquest now stared. At the screen in quiet horror, the Last Sentinel still hovered in orbit below them, unmoving, its weapons quiet for the moment. But every scan showed the same thing. Its weapons were charged, its shields unbroken, and its ancient AI watching them closely. "Commander," a shaken officer said, "the Deathworlder fleet has entered the system." Varric's heart sank. "How many?" "Not many, sir. But they're Deathworlders." On the screen, a small fleet appeared. Old warships, battle-scarred, and built for brutal fights. They weren't sleek like Imperial ships. They were rough, ugly, and carried scars from centuries of war. Each one moved with the confidence of a Predator. At the head of the formation was a massive ship named the Resolute. Its hull was scorched and patched, but its weapons were heavy and fully active. Inside, Captain Jonah Voss watched the display of the damaged Empire ships. "Pathetic," he muttered. Beside him, Captain Harker smirked. "They poked the wrong ghost." Jonah opened a channel to the AI on Earth. "Echo 7, status?" The AI's calm voice replied, "Primary systems operational. Imperial fleet decimated. Defense protocol active. Final threat assessment underway." "Good," Jonah said. "We'll clean up the mess." In orbit, the surviving Imperial ships tried to power their engines, desperate to flee. But it was no use. Every path out of the system was already blocked by Deathworlder ships. Echo 7's voice filled the system again. this time reaching every Imperial ship and outpost nearby. This is Earth's final defense. Surrender your ships or face elimination. 1. Imperial captain responded. We surrender, he stammered, his voice cracking. Others followed. Their commanders, too afraid to fight, chose to live rather than die in the cold emptiness of space. But Varix wouldn't surrender. Cowards, he hissed. We are the Empire. He ordered his ship's remaining cannons to lock onto Earth one last time. Fire everything. His officers hesitated. Sir, it won't work. You saw what it did to our fleet. If we attack again, do it. The final weapons of the Sovereign Blade fired. Beams of light streaked toward Earth, and for a moment there was silence. Then the Last Sentinel responded. Massive plasma turrets rotated, locking onto the Imperial flagship. A single earth-shaking blast fired from its main cannon, and the Sovereign Blade was gone. Not a piece remained. Not a spark of light. It was as if the ship had never existed. The Deathworlder fleet watched quietly. Still proud until the end, Captain Harker muttered. Jonah sighed. Stupid, but predictable. Echo 7 spoke again. Threat eliminated. Remaining Imperial ships have powered down weapons, awaiting Deathworlder command authority. Jonah opened a secure channel. To all surviving Imperial crews, you will power down your engines, eject your weapons, and prepare for prisoner transport. Attempt anything else, and you will not get a second chance. The frightened Imperial officers obeyed. On distant star systems, word of the battle spread faster than anyone expected. Images of the destroyed Imperial fleet, the awakening of the planet-sized warship, and the Deathworlder fleet's return sent waves of fear through the galaxy. Rebellions began. Empire-controlled colonies demanded answers. Smaller empires whispered of joining the Deathworlders. No one wanted to be next. And through it all, Echo 7 sent a final transmission to the entire galactic network. Earth remembers. The Deathworlders endure. This galaxy belongs to no empire. It belongs to those strong enough to defend it. We are watching. The warning was clear. Earth was no longer a forgotten ruin. It was a symbol. And the Empire's age of control was ending. The fall of the Empire, the battle was over. The sky above Earth was quiet again, filled only with drifting debris and the broken remains of Imperial warships. Fire still burned on some of the wreckage, but most of it floated lifeless in space. The Deathworlder fleet moved through the field of wreckage like silent hunters. Their ships, old but powerful, held there, formation with precision. Not one vessel had been lost. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Jonah Voss watched the final Imperial ship surrender. Their engines shut down, their weapons ejected into space. It was over. Echo 7, Jonah called. Status. The AI's calm. Voice responded. All Imperial forces neutralized. Prisoners secured. No remaining hostile signatures detected within the system. Captain Harker stood beside him, arms crossed. We should have done this centuries ago. Jonah gave a small, tired smile. We weren't ready back then. Now we are. He turned to Ward. The main screen, where Earth's Last Sentinel still hovered. Its cannons had powered down, but its shields remained at full strength. The world-sized warship was scarred from time, but unstoppable. Jonah opened a wide-channel broadcast to the entire galaxy. This is Captain Jonah Voss of the Deathworlders. To every empire, every council, and every colony, hear this message. Across countless worlds, people gathered around screens and transmitters. Soldiers, leaders, merchants, and workers froze. As Jonah's face appeared before them, Earth lives, he said firmly. You tried to erase us from history. You told stories of our extinction. But you forgot one thing. Deathworlders never die easy. He gestured toward the burning wreckage behind him. Your Empire's fleet lies in ruins. Your greatest warships are debris, and your leaders now hide behind walls, terrified of what comes next. Jonah leaned in, his voice cold and steady. We're not here to conquer. We don't need your worlds. But know this, if you threaten us again, if you send another fleet to Earth, or any Deathworlder colony, we will respond. He glanced at the planet-sized warship behind him. And you already know what happens when we respond. The message cut out across the galaxy. Silence followed. The leaders of the great empires knew their time of control was ending. Rebellions rose. Old allies abandoned the empire. Borders were redrawn overnight. On Earth, the Deathworlders landed at last. For the first time in centuries, human boots touched their homeworld soil. The ancient cities lay in ruins, covered in dust and vines. But the heart of Earth still beat strong. Captain Harker stood beside Jonah as their people disembarked. It feels strange, she said quietly. It's ours, Jonah replied. Always was. Always will be. Echo 7's voice filled the air once more. Welcome home, Deathworlders. Planetary defenses remain active, awaiting further orders. Jonah smiled. Stand down, Sentinel. You did good. The ancient warship powered down its heavy weapons. Its cannons returned to rest, its shields lowered for the first time in ages. Earth was free. And the Deathworlders had returned. Jonah gathered his officers as the sun rose over the old world. The light touched ruined cities, shattered statues, and the bones of a forgotten age. But it also touched new faces, younger soldiers, and survivors ready to rebuild. We'll make this place strong again, Jonah said. Not as conquerors. Not as tyrants, but as Deathworlders, protectors of our own. The others nodded. In the sky, the last of the Imperial ships fled, carrying word of their defeat. And far beyond the edge of the system, other Deathworlder ships began receiving the call. They would return one by one from hiding places across the galaxy. The Empire's age was over. New age had begun. An age where no world would ever forget the name Deathworlder again, and no one would dare challenge Earth.